Hey there, everybody. This is Evan Rogers, and I'm coming at you with Evan's Easy Japanese. I've been screwing that up a lot lately. We have been going through the JLPT N5 practice test that we found online, and I've chosen to take a break from doing the listening because non-stop throughout the listening, I've discovered that they have been expecting you to know every single form of the verb and how they, I want to say conjugate, but really it's agglutinate. We'll talk about that later. I've been working on a packet that I'm planning on selling or giving away or something like that in the future that really goes through how all of this works. And in the meantime, I figured I'd just blast out the information on here for free because I'm such a nice guy. If you want to repay me, feel free to give me a paypal.me/EvansEasyJapanese. Join up at Patreon, or there's a Bitcoin link or a Bitcoin address in the doobly-doo below. Props to Matthew Colville for calling it that and getting it stuck in my head. The video description is what they call it. And please share if you think that what I'm doing here is good. There's a kid out there wanting to learn Japanese and he has no idea where to begin. And hopefully my videos will get them to some level of understanding. And hit the like button if you think that this is good. It's the least you can do. You just go like this. Beep. And you're done. It's pretty simple. All right. Getting that out of the way, let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. I want to talk about all of the agglutinations of the distal style, aka the mas form of the verb. So all those ikimases, tabemas, nomimas, everything that ends in a mas, the mas form of the verb, the polite form, the what I call the distal style, because it puts a social distance between you. That's why we call it the distal style, or at least the distal form of the verb. Style is more like how you talk, whereas form is more like the actual form of the verb. That being said, let's talk about that first, and then we're going to go into the negatives of the plain forms. We're only going to do the negatives because they are the plain form verbs, the direct form verbs, i.e. the ikus, the nomus, the yobus, the shinus, the taberus, etc., etc., etc. Those are a lot of work to agglutinate / conjugate / whatever the right term might be, because they have so many freaking different parts to them. Okay, that being said, let's go ahead and get it started. The distal style is actually very easy. I'm going to use the term past tense, however, that's not really true, so let's change that to, or add at least complete, and we'll talk about the difference. With times in languages, usually, especially in English and Japanese, the time of the sentence, that is when the sentence takes place, is determined by the verb or the copula, or in some cases the adjective. In English, it's relentlessly defined by the verb, like just crazy relentlessly, like we have the was. Anyway, so that being said, every verb that deals with time and every e-adjective in all the languages, when we start dealing with time, we have what's called in linguistics the tam, the tense, aspect, and mood. In Japanese, the two tenses are complete and incomplete. So an action has either happened and is done happening, or it is currently, or it has not yet happened, or it is not finished happening. Those are your two options. The master forms are your complete form of the verbs. Everything else, all the masses, are non-complete or incomplete. I call it the future of the habitual. It should really be the non-complete. We'll call it the non-complete. I should actually call it that. It's just people don't really know what the heck that means. Okay, so let's talk about our mas forms. Ends in mas, so nomimas. This X stands for all those, we call them stems. So nomimas, yobimas, tabemas, shimas, kimas, blah, 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 mas. All of those verbs that you probably learned first in your Japanese class because they're the polite way to talk to people that you don't know that well. Those are your distal style, and I'm going to change these to distal form. Distal form verbs. These are your masses. If you want to say you did not eat, or sorry, that you don't eat or that you will not eat, that is your masen. So we change the su to a sen, and it's that easy. Mas to masen. Okay? Easy peasy, put in pie. Mas to masen. So, ikimasu, I go, I will go. Masen, I don't go or I will not go. Mashita, change that su to a shita, and we end up with I have gone, I went, something like that. The going has been completed. Mashita, I went is usually the best translation, but keep in mind it's a little bit different than the English. It does mean that the going is done. So in certain situations, it could mean have gone. Masen deshita. This is a connection of the negative and the complete / the past tense. Masen deshita. So as you can see, we have masen, just like a negative. And then we tack on deshita, which hopefully you've learned is the past / the complete form of the polite copula des, turns into deshita. Okay, so that's it. Those are pretty much all of the forms you need to know of the mas form to pass the N5. Okay, that's pretty much it. All right, now we're going to zoom on down to the negatives of the plain forms. Okay, and here we are. So we're going to start off with the group 3 verbs. Watch the previous video to learn what group 3 verbs are. There's only 2 of them. There's suru and kuru / shimas and kimas. So I have the entire chart here, but let's not just kind of ignore this right now unless you really just want to memorize it. The negatives of the group 3s are unfortunately shut up and memorize. Luckily for us, they're not that difficult. Shinai is suru / so in the mas form, the distal form, it's suru. I'm sorry, it's shimas, and then in the plain form, it's suru. However, that shi remains for the negative, the shinai from the distal form. So shinai, suru turns into shinai, and then the next one, kuru, strangely turns into konai. So konai, you can see that that's very strange. It's not common. This ko comes out of nowhere. When we go through the group 1s, the group 2s, and the group 4s, you'll see this O sound comes pretty much out of nowhere for direct form negatives. Okay, so basically just memorize them. Suru turns into shinai. Kuru turns into konai. Okay? That's the way they are. The end. Sorry. Blech. One thing I want to point out before we continue on is you're going to notice that every negative direct form verb is actually an E adjective. Hopefully you've heard me say this numerous times. They all end in the E. You've heard me say this numerous times, hopefully. If not, you're going to hear it for the first time now. Verbs and E adjectives are very similar in nature. They can almost be considered the same word group. I group them both into verbals, as do many linguists, because E adjectives do not require a verb like they do in English. Adjectives require a verb. When we say something like he is fat, in Japanese you can just say futoi or debui or something like that. Futotteru. And then many teiru verbs, in fact, many verbs in general, not even the teiru forms, operate like adjectives. So that's fascinating that adjectives, E adjectives, and verbs have a huge overlap in their usage and the understanding. Some sentences that are like that use verbs, I guess I already said this, are very adjectival in nature. They're very adjective-y. All right, let's jump on to the next group. I'm going to skip over the copula that's coming up, because I decided to group copulas there because they also have plain form. Now we're on these special polite verbs. Hopefully you've memorized all 5 of them, and you'll notice that they all end in. They were irashaimasu, nasaimasu, oshaimasu, kudasaimasu, and gozaimasu. You'll as I said up here, if you were paying attention, which if you're paying really close attention, all the mas forms end in aimasu, and all the plain forms or the direct forms go into irasharu, nasaru. They all end in aru sounds: osharu, kudasaru, gozaru. The negatives for these are actually very similar to how we conjugate or agglutinate the how we change the form of group 1s and group 2s. If you learn group 1s and group 2s, you're going to see a common thread here. So special polite verbs 1 and 2s have a very strong connection in this pattern. So as you can see, they all end in rus, and they're going to pop just the ah sound, anai. So the ru gets jacked up to the ah sound, and we get ranai. So irasharu, irasharanai, ru ra, ru ra, ru ra. The ru turns into a ra. because they're scary and they go raw. That's dumb. Excuse me while I be stupid. Nasaru, just like the previous ones, ru turns into a ra. So we'll talk about this later, but you raise it like it's cold up to the ra sound. So raise it like it's cold, raise it like it's cold. You're going to bring it from the ru sound to the ra sound. Nasaru, nasaranai. Osharu, osharanai. Kudasaru, kudasaranai. Gozaru, gozaranai. Many times these negatives, especially in the polite, in the direct form, aren't as common. However, they do exist. They are a pattern, and you should know them. You should know them. All right. So that being said, they conjugate mostly like a group one. And let's continue. So just memorize the fact that the ru's turn into a ra. Okay. The more I think about it, this actually doesn't follow the group 2 pattern. That was me speaking out of my bum, and my bum was leading me wrong. So excuse my bum. All right, let's jam on the group 2s. I think we're going to see next. I forget because I've written this a long time ago, and I haven't polished it up. So let's see what we got. Next is indeed group 2. So I said earlier that these special polite verbs in the negative follow patterns similar to group 2s and group 1s. I didn't actually mean that. I meant to say that they're mostly like the group 1s. It just so happens that they all end in a ru sound. Group 2 verbs are odd, but these are actually kind of similar to the group 3 verbs where we just change the final ru sound to a nai. So we had suru turned into shinai, and then we had kuru turns into konai. So that ru turned into a nai, along with other changes. But you'll see that here. So taberu is the plain form in the positive future habitual, and we're gonna negate it by just saying tabe, change that ru to a nai. Okay, so ru's turn into nais. Bill Nye the negative guy, tabe nai, tabe ru. I don't know. Bill Nye the tabe nai guy. Okay, so all of these ru's in the group 2 change into just nais, and it's that easy. So ru to nai, ru nai, ru nai, ru nai, ru nai that's better. That's what I'm gonna sing. Ru nai the science guy, ru nai the agglutinating guy, ru nai the agglutinating guy, ru nai agglutinating guy. Glute. It's funny because glutes means butt. Okay, so all of them follow this pattern. Every time you get a group 2 verb, watch the previous video that I launched yesterday. And you will see how to identify group 1s and group 2s and group 3s and special polite verbs. So, miru, minai. Dekiru, dekinai. Okay? It's that simple. Ru's to nais. Ru nai, the agglutinating guy. Glute. Booty. That's about it. We'll talk about the past/complete forms in the future. Don't worry about that right now. Okay, let's see how we do group 1s. You're going to find that the group 1s are extremely similar to the special polite verbs. Okay, so what we're going to do is we have verbs like a-u and iku and yobu, and all of these guys in nomu, they don't end in a ru sound. Some of the group 1s will end in a ru sound, I believe. Yeah, some of them will, like norimasu, noru. And what happens is you take that final u sound, a-u, iku, the yobu, the nomu, the noru, the whatever verb it is, and it ends in an u sound. You're gonna so this is where the joke where I was making, I think it's Snoop Dogg, I don't know rap, but if you take the hiragana chart and it goes a, I, u, e, o, all of the distal forms are in the e sound. And so when you make them into the plain sound, you got to drop it like it's hot to the oo sound. So you go from e to oo because you're dropping it like it's hot. However, when we're making it negative, it's not hot anymore. It's very cold. So you have to raise it like it's cold, all the way up to the ah sound. We're going to raise it all the way up to the ah sound. Ao is so cold. When it ends in an oo sound, it's so cold that we have to raise it all the way up to the wa. Because there's no, like, ah, nai sounds dumb. So they went ah, wa, nai. So raise that all the way up to the wa. Wa, bi, wu, wo, which doesn't exist. The wa and the wo do, but not we, woo, we. So we're going to take the oo sound up to the wa, just because ah, nai sounds dumb. But the rest of them just go to their corresponding ah sound. So iku, ika, nai, yobu, yoba, nai, buba, no mu, no manai, no ru, no ranai. She knew, she nanai. I mean, we could do any single group one verb. We just changed that last oo sound into its corresponding, raised like it was cold, ah sound. Unless it ends in an oo, then we have to bring it up to a wa. Hey everybody, you might have noticed that my clothing suddenly vanished into thin air and turned into a different style of clothing. That's because I meant to talk about something that I didn't mention when I first uploaded this video. You might notice that the links to the previous video don't work. Anyway, that's not important right now. What is important is that the verb aru, arimas, is special. The arimas turns into nai when negative. It breaks all the rules. That's annoying, but that's just the way it is. One thing to point out is that the negative in every single e adjective, like takakunai or yasukunai or I don't know, subarashikunai, any adjective, e adjective that ends in a nai that's negative, that's this nai. This is that nai. And so it's kind of strange that we also find it at the end of every single negative verb. There's a chance that maybe that is what that nai actually is, and that would further buttress the argument that e adjectives and verbs share a lot in common. I don't have the evidence for that claim that this is the same nai that's at the end of every single negative verb. I don't have the evidence to back that claim up, but it sure is suspicious, ain't it? Anyway, arimas, aru. The negative of aru is just nai, not aranai. That is incorrect. It's nai. That's it. That's how you make the negatives of of direct form verbs. That's it. That's all you have to do. Oo to the ah, to the whizzle to the hizzle. That's group one. Oo to the ah. Special polite verbs also were oo to the ah. Group threes and group twos, we changed those roos to just straight up nais. There's no ah sound. So once again, special polite verbs, anai. Group one verbs, anai. Group three verbs, whatever came before it ends in nai. The roo turns into a nai. Group two verbs, the roo turns into a nai. So you kind of have two ways to change your verbs. And group ones and special polites do the ah sound followed by nai. And the group three and the group twos change the roo of the positive future habitual / incomplete into the just a nai sound, no ah sound whatsoever. Okay? That's it. That's how we do negatives in the direct form. And we also went over all of the mas forms, the past tenses, the negative completes, the negative pasts and and all that stuff. I hope this was helpful. Unfortunately, I'm not going to give you any practice here. I'm probably going to throw practice in this worksheet, and I'll sell it for $5 or something like that. Who knows what I'm going to do? It's not done yet. In the meantime, you can practice. Just pop open a bunch of... With this video and the last video, go to any Japanese website, and you can probably find if it's a group 1 or a group 2 verb, or a 3 or a 5, and you can just practice on your own. You don't really need a worksheet. It'll be helpful to have the right answers to make sure you're correct, but just go anywhere. That being said, this was Evan's Easy Japanese, and I'm Evan Rogers. Please share if you thought this was helpful. Please like it. Give it a thumbs up. Let all the people who are learning Japanese throughout the world who are mesmerized by all that crazy anime culture they see, let them know that there's a place that they can learn some basic Japanese with a crazy bald guy who's kind of fun, teaching it in a not scary way. Feel free to donate. Try to make this worth my time. There, PayPal, Bitcoin, Patreon. Help me out. I will shut up. Have yourself a great day. Peace out. Boo. Yeah. Peace out.